and welcome to this edition of Dustin's Kaleidoscope. I am Dustin, and I have the pleasure of being here today with Sarita Wilson, Allyson Willhard, and Russell Bentley. And they are all representatives of Literacy Volunteers of America, which is also known as LVA. So, first of all, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
And let's get started by telling us a little bit about what each of you does with regards to LVA. I mean, Russell.
I'll start. I'm a recruiter for Literacy Volunteers of America, Essex and Passaic counties.
Okay.
We have about 220 tutors, not all of whom I've recruited, but a few of them. We have about 550 students. My job is to get the tutors in, keep them happy, and arrange the workshops and training sessions that they take.
Okay. And Allyson, what do you do?
I'm actually just a volunteer tutor. I started about April of last year.
Okay.
On Mondays, I lead a English conversation group, so I talk with basically advanced level English speakers, and I also have a literacy student, and I also teach a ESL student computer skills.
Okay, that sounds great. And Rita, what do you do?
Yes, Sarita. So I am a tutor trainer.
Okay.
So I train tutors, so I work very closely with Russell to train new tutors.
Okay.
And I used to lead a conversation group for about 6 months or so. Allyson took that over.
Mm-hmm.
And I have individual tutors, students that I work with that I tutor.
Okay. So now that we know a little bit about your backgrounds, give me an idea of, excuse me, of what LVA does.
Okay. Neglected to mention, I'm also a volunteer for LVA as well as an employee.
Oh, okay.
I've been a tutor with them for almost 5 years.
Wow, okay.
And what we do is we bring in students who are struggling with English, with basic literacy, which is reading and writing, as well as English for speakers of other languages, which in addition to reading and writing has a listening, comprehension, and speaking component, which teach them to speak English as well as to read and write it. In the United States, there are about 32 million people who are considered functionally illiterate.
Wow.
They can read and write a few words, but they can't write a note to their student's teacher. They can't read the prescription medication that they may be taking. They may not be able to read street directions or street signs. Can't fill out a job application. Inevitably, they're going to live a life of illiteracy leads to increased poverty. Unfortunately, in the school system, there are a lot of mechanisms for school kids who need help. But once you become an adult, the availability of services shrinks. So what we try to do is we're one of the organizations that try to step in and help adults become literate. We train tutors who then tutor students for 2 hours per week. And they agree to do it for about 1 year. We're currently recruiting tutors for programs in the Bloomfield Public Library, which Sarita will train them for, and the West Orange Public Library. We're in Essex and Passaic counties, where the rate of illiteracy is a little higher. In the United States, the rate of illiteracy is about 14.5%
Okay.
of all
Just
adults.
overall.
All adults can't read and write enough to be considered functionally literate, to lead a life that would allow them to enjoy some of the things that the rest of us enjoy. But in Essex County, that rate is 28%.
Oh,
so it's more
wow.
than 1 out of 4 people are considered functionally illiterate. It's a little less in Passaic County, with 36%. We work in both counties, and we also have a program in Northern State Prison, which is a medium security prison in Newark. In fact, where we train tutors to train inmates to teach other inmates to read and write. In fact, last December, Sarita ran that program in the prison. She may want to speak on that at some point. It's a pretty interesting venture.
So let me, can you distinguish, like, what is the age group, what is considered an adult? Is it 17, 18, who can use LVA?
Okay, we teach people 16 and above. To be between 16 and 18, you have to be a school dropout,
Okay.
high school or otherwise. Our general population is 18 and above. We're an adult program. We will take someone 16 and older if they're dropped out of high school or dropped out of school. For the most part, if they're still in school, they have way more programs than other folks have. So
Okay. And so Russell mentioned that there's a program you participated in one of the medium security prisons.
Yes, so
Can you-
Northern State Prison in December. So what they have is a program, so for inmates that are there currently, and a lot of them are getting close to leaving that facility, so they want to be able to take some kind of skills with them and be able to use it in the real world afterwards. So they've been asking to have a tutor training for themselves. They can train other inmates. That's something they can then put as a job description. They've actually been working, and they're very, very interested to help others, as well as just learn more about themselves and expand their horizons.
So do you actually tutor there, or are you over the program, or both?
What I did was to train the tutors. So
Okay.
as a trainer, what my role is to give basically a toolkit for everyone, all different types of ways that they can train someone, and depending on what that particular student is that comes in, they might say, oh, this is something I can use with them, or no, this isn't really good, but maybe I can have this. So they get a wide variety from a toolkit, and then they'll be able to say, okay, for my particular student or students, then they can work with them.
So it's totally catered toward the, toward the specific person.
Yes, and what was very interesting for me as a trainer with the Northern State Prison is that usually we have one tutor for every trainer, one trainer, one tutor, like
Okay.
that. And one student. And so at the prison, though, there's usually going to be one person that's the tutor, but they're going to be actually having several different students in there. So it's a little bit more challenging for them, so we give them a wide variety of tools that they can use. So depending on how many students, their backgrounds, then they can help those students.
So when you say they had more than one student, do you mean at a time, or do you
At a
mean?
time.
So it's sort of a group?
It could be a group, or it could be
Okay.
maybe 2 or 3 students that they're working with.
Okay. And Allyson, you tutor individuals, or do you do
I do
group?
both.
Okay.
I have my ESL, my English conversation group is a group. I've had
And ESL is?
English
what?
is a second
Okay.
language. Sorry,
All right.
I keep forgetting to explain that. But the English conversation group can range from like 3 people. One time I've had 16
Okay.
at a time, and it's once a week. I do have two students that I tutor individually as well. One via Skype and the other in person. And actually, I'm starting to do that through YouTube videos because
Wow, okay.
It's-
So how do you, so is it like basically teaching a class, or through YouTube, or how does that work? Explain that.
Well, the things that she wants to know, because right now I'm teaching her computer skills, but I'm also teaching her, kind of integrating some of the English vocabulary and sentences in there.
Okay.
So what I'm doing is some of the lessons end up being a lot more concise. You can pack more in a 5-minute video rather than trying to practice and explain the same thing over and over
Right.
again.
Okay.
I remember Sal from Khan Academy explained this in his
Yeah.
TED conference, and he was saying that, the great thing about recording your own video is that you have your student who can just record and play it all over again.
Right, right.
So,
And that's the first thing I thought of. I thought of Sal Khan from Khan Academy, in case people don't know. Excuse me. So you do that. So does that mean that you are dealing with a lot of people who are remote, or are you dealing with people who are locally, or a little combination of both?
it's a combination. I started out with students who are very local, but they've had some transportation issues or they have some scheduling issues. And so, they have a Skype account. I just get on Skype, and if that doesn't work, then I just make a video, email it to them, they see the video, and it's
Wow.
for them to keep.
That is that's great, because you're able to, you don't have to physically be with them in order to teach them, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
Which leads me to my next question. Maybe, Russell, you can help me with this since you do the recruiting. Like, what types of people are you looking for? Like, what are the requirements, both from, you explained on the student side, like they have to be a certain age, but what do you look for as far as the tutor?
Well, heartbeat, pulse. More specifically, we look
Thank
for
you.
someone who's 18 years old or older and has a high school diploma.
Okay.
And Sarita does training, so she knows a lot of it is patience.
Okay.
A lot of our tutors, they have the tools already. They may not realize they have them, and Sarita helps them to implement them. We have students who, I recall just the other day, we had a student who's about to graduate college, and because she has an accent and she got a few things wrong on a test, her professor referred to her as stupid. And we never do that at LVA. We try to show patience to our students. Some of our students dropped out of school, and they've had a hard time. So our job is in part to understand what they're going through. They have a lot of life issues sometimes.
Right.
And it gets in the way of tutoring. Sometimes they have to disappear for a while because they found a job where someone got sick and they have no daycare or have no one to watch an elderly parent, which is why remote tutoring is helping. But yeah, we try to use patience and bring them in. We have a lot of, we have a range. We've got someone who came to us just out of high school, but that's kind of unusual. Our population of tutors is a little older.
Okay.
But one thing we try to look for them is that they have the patience and the caring to deal with people who have often had a hard time in life. People stuck in jobs where they don't make much. My student, he sometimes works 7 days a week, and he can't say no because he would lose the job. He's a housekeeper at a hospital. He cleans the hospital. And there's not, without being able to read and write, there's not a lot of other things he could probably get his hands on.
So this tutoring is probably perfect for him because at some point it'll get him to the stage where he can actually apply for other jobs and just be more valuable for an employer.
There's a lot involved. A lot is just simple reading and writing of a job application. But a lot of times now, literacy means more than just English or even math. It means computer literacy because not too many companies are putting their applications in paper form anymore. You have to be able to get on a computer and apply.
And that's, do you all deal with that as well? Or do you like the computer aspect of it? Or is it, I know you do to an extent that you're on YouTube and Skype, but do you actually teach those skills as well?
It depends on the students. I also use Skype for my students recently.
Oh, okay.
My husband and I are volunteers, and we have a Russian couple now that we're working with. They lived fairly close, but then they moved to another town. So it was really not feasible to commute every once a week. So we do now lessons with Skype.
Oh,
and so
okay.
we do that maybe 90 minutes twice a week. And so that way everyone feels very comfortable and we can get a lot of things done. And like Allyson, we also email things ahead of time to them if necessary, or with the camera, we can hold something up to them and then they get that little bit more level of confidence. Plus the thing with Skype, and I think Allyson would agree, is that the lesson is much more focused now because you're not worried, is the student getting there on time? Are you getting there on time? So it's very focused just on that lesson.
And you can present the lesson and you know that you've pretty much you've done everything that you need to do in order to have them learn this particular part of the lesson.
That's right.
So we're going to come back in about a minute and a half. We're done with this segment, but when we come back, I know that you have like an example of a Skype lesson. So we're gonna come back in about a minute and a half, and this is Dustin's Kaleidoscope, and we are here with the LVA tutors and volunteers, and we'll be right back.
Local government, local educational institutions, and local community members all use cable access TV to communicate their message. They depend upon it as an affordable means of outreach. Public educational and government access television empowers local government agencies, individuals, and groups to use the media to speak directly to their constituents in a more direct and cost-effective way. Make sure everyone has a voice. Support your local PEG channels.
And welcome back to Dustin's Kaleidoscope. I'm Dustin, and I am here today with LVA Literacy Volunteers of America representatives. And before we left at the break, we were talking a little bit about the types of experiences that your students have had and the types of students. But could you each tell me individually what has been the most rewarding thing that you have received from being part of LVA? See, we can start with you, Rita.
Sarita.
I'm sorry. Sorry about that. Sarita.
My most rewarding experience is just to see the progress of our students so that we can see, as I mentioned, it's a couple that knew very little English. So to see them progress from just learning a couple of very simple commands like stand up, sit down, open the door, close the door, and now they're able to speak in complete sentences as well as past tense, present tense, future tense, and using all that vocabulary words and really forming conversations.
And what was the time period for that?
I'd say probably about 7 or 8 months.
Wow, that's pretty fast.
It is pretty fast considering the Russian alphabet in this case is Cyrillic, which is very, very different. They only have 3 verb tenses. We have lots of different ones. So it's a work in progress, but they're doing really well, and it's a very positive experience.
Oh, that's wonderful. And Allyson, for you, I know you said you started in April of last year.
Yes.
But what have you found to be the most rewarding aspect as of now?
It's, I don't know, there's too many to list. That's the only
good thing.
Yeah, it's quite a good thing. I guess the one that really stood out to me was with my literacy student. I didn't really, I'm still considered fairly new to this. And so when I first started, I didn't really realize that my student would come in with his iPad and his smartphone.
Oh.
And during the time that I was tutoring him, that we were working together, I finally said to him, he finally told me that he's getting a computer. He bought a computer, and he even bought Dragon software to help him with some of the word predictions so that even when he does falter on a certain word, it's still there.
What is Dragon software?
Oh, Dragon is it's one of those dictation softwares.
Oh, okay.
And it's voice to text.
Okay.
It's really great, especially if you have any kind of learning difficulty.
Okay.
It's along the line of like read and write, text gold, things
Okay.
like that. But no, the big thing that really stood out for me was when he called me on Skype the day before Thanksgiving. I didn't expect his call at all.
Uh-huh.
And he said, look at me, I'm using Skype, because I taught him how to use it. And he wanted to ask me how I was doing, and he was so happy to see my face. And I asked him how he was doing with everything else, and he said everything was great. And, he said he finally has the courage to, finally take apart words little by little. And he's not afraid to even try anymore. He's not afraid to try to read.
That's
So-
awesome. That is, I can see how both
Yeah.
of those experiences would be really, really rewarding. And for you, Russell, you've
Yeah,
been...
mine are along the same lines. About 95% of our students are English as a second language, English or speakers of other language. About 5% of ours are basic literacy, which is either for a native English speaker who can't read and write, or someone from another country whose mother tongue's not English, but they speak English so well, they only need help with reading and writing.
Oh, okay.
And both of my students are basic literacy. They're both from English-speaking countries, dropped out of school early. But probably the most rewarding for me was when I showed one how to write a note to his children's teacher when his child is sick. We have an advertisement we used to recruit, says that these hands have moved 4 households, cooked 3,000 meals, but they can't write a note to a student's teacher. And it really comes down to that. And that was a watershed moment for both of us when he learned to write the note, and then to substitute, sick for doctor's appointment, for, whatever reason his child wasn't able to get to school, and he was able to do it on his own without asking his child to write it.
Wow.
It was just a touching moment for both of us.
These are like basic things
Yeah.
that a lot of us just take for granted.
Yes.
And to be
Exactly.
able to be part of helping someone else get to that point,
Yeah,
I can see how that's
it's
totally rewarding.
it is.
Along those same lines, Allyson, you mentioned that you have done a Skype interview. So we're going to take a second right now, and we're going to watch the Skype interview, and then we'll be right back.
These games are, they're actually meant to just, kind of like make sure that you can be as creative as possible. One little note. If you're going to say that something is very tragedy, it would actually be something is very tragic. Tragedy is actually a noun. So you would say that this building collapsing was such a tragedy, or the death of my friend's uncle was a tragedy. Usually, tragedy is used when there's an indefinite article A added right above it. Or it could be a definite article like that. So that's the best way to remember it. Do you want to try making a sentence that has the word tragedy in it?
Do you know the new film, Les Miserables?
Oh, Les Miserables.
Yes,
It's French.
This film is a tragedy.
Yeah,
film, right?
yeah. This film is a tragedy. It's
Yeah,
actually.
but I like it very much.
You do? Oh, cool. A lot of Americans, actually, those who really love Les Miserables, they call it Les Mis.
Oh,
A lot of Americans, they can't really pronounce the full title, so they'll just call it Les Mis.
Okay, well that was a great video just to give us an idea, and now we get a better flavor for what you actually do on Skype. So that was wonderful. Is Skype something that you encourage people to do, or do you want people like to be more face to face, like that kind of thing, or do you care? Like, does LVA have like a specific philosophy? Like, we want people to be in front of us to tutor, or we want YouTube, or we want Skyping, or a combination, or?
It's sort of a, if I can take this, is sort of a new thing for us. The Essex and Passaic County's Office of Literacy Volunteers has been in operation since '93.
Okay.
I am not sure how old Skype is.
2003.
Since I'm
Thank
also about 93, I can tell you that not all of us use Skype and Google Hangouts. So for our organization, I didn't mean to give away my age, I'm sorry. For our organization, some of these things are new, and what we're doing with them is using them. For instance, this was a notorious winter. There were days when libraries all around here, where we generally tutor out of public places like libraries. They were closed, and we couldn't get to our students. Right now, we're using it for makeup sessions, but we're looking into it seriously for permanent sessions, for regular sessions.
Okay.
We would still like to do face-to-face because we feel like there's something missing. It's like when my daughters text me happy birthday, I feel like if they would just come over and say that to me, it'd be a little more to, gain. We want to do face-to-face. That's what we always want to do. But there are times when we can't. And we're looking into this seriously. And we have people like Sarita and Allyson sort of leading the charge for us on this field. Front.
For me, it's really important that we can do the Skype because it does focus the lesson more. And in the beginning, like Russell said, it may feel awkward that you don't want to see the person, but you're actually interacting so very closely. The only thing that you can't do is that touching, saying, yeah, you're doing such a great job, but they see it in all the body language, and all of that is really there. So it's the next best thing to actually physically being there.
And as you mentioned, like with the weather being what it has been, you don't have to miss a lesson unless, the internet's down, but you can actually continue and that person doesn't miss this week's lesson and they can continue to learn.
Yep.
Which, now that we've come to this point, can you let everyone know how people can contact Literacy Volunteers of America, either from the standpoint of being a possible tutor and volunteering, or anybody who's watching who wants to learn how to read and write?
Okay, we have a new executive director, Christian Barcelos, who has revamped our website.
Okay.
And we're back up in action. That website is LVA, like Literacy Volunteers America, lvanewark.org.
Okay.
You can also email us at LVA Essex, like the county, ESSEX, at verizon.net, or call us at 973-566-6200, extension 217. We have a long waiting list of people who we don't have tutors for. We just don't have enough tutors. So if someone has the time and wants to help someone in need, could always use their help.
And is it a rotating is it a rotation type thing as far as getting people to come in volunteer, or do you have to come in, only, March or then June and then on? How does it work?
We ask that you give 1 year. That said, we have a lot of people who stay longer, and we have
Okay.
people who stay less, just because life gets in the way.
Right.
But we ask that you stay 1 year. People do go away. We have people who have, we call them is it snowbird? The term?
Oh, right, yes.
They want to go to Florida in December, January, February. I can't say, well, you can't go. I just say, you have extra room now? Yeah, go with you. But this is where remote tutoring can really help.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
As far as recruiting more tutors, we do trainings all throughout the year.
Oh,
So
great,
usually about
okay.
3 or 4 workshops in the springtime and about 3 or 4 in the autumn to December or so. So anytime that someone wants to come in and volunteer to be a tutor, it's not like they have to wait a certain time and then say, oh, I can only come now. So it's on a rotating basis. We have several
thank
per
you.
year.
Okay, that's wonderful.
And training is about 16 hours a day, which is about average around the country.
Okay.
And we have 2 coming up, one in Bloomfield, which Sarita will be teaching, and one in West Orange.
We have about 1 minute left, and I would like each of you to tell me very quickly what has surprised you most about being part of the LVA.
Yeah, I'm just surprised the effort everybody puts into it. When I went into it, I wasn't really sure what to expect, but we all put in long hours. Mostly as volunteers.
Okay.
And because it's a cause we believe in.
Right.
And I'm surprised that that's sort of across the board.
Yeah.
And Allyson, for you?
Well, only because we have a very short time left, but just the freedom. I didn't realize that, I can do my own YouTube videos, I can do Skype lessons and things like that, and to have that freedom to be able to do that and it benefit my students is a wonderful thing and valuable.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And Sarita?
And for me, I would say it's the support that we get for all the people that are in the office staff as well. Because anytime we need help, we can call them. They have a lot of books that are there, as well as just being able to bounce ideas off of them, such as new ideas like Skype or Google Hangouts, or just to be able to say, I have a problem with my student. I'm not sure how I can proceed next.
Well, thank you all so much for being here. I'm sure everybody's going to find this extremely valuable, and they'll be contacting you to become tutors. And thank you all so much for watching this edition of Dustin's Kaleidoscope, and we will see you next time. Bye.